Allah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala salah. Hayya ala falah. Hayya ala falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Ahmaduhu wa asta'inuhu wa astadihi wa astaghfiruhu wa umminu bihi jalla wa ala wa la akfuruhu wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Arsalahu bil huda wa din al-haq liyadhhiruhu ala ad-din kulihi walau karihal mushrikun. All praise belongs to Allah. We praise Him. We seek His help, His assistance, and His guidance. We believe in Him and do not disbelieve in Him. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His servant and messenger. Allah sent Him, that is Muhammad, with Deen al-Haq, the religion, the way, the methodology of truth. And this way of life known as Islam will rise to its proper position in this world, whether the mushriks like it or not. فَمَنْ يَرِيدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. O you who believe, fear Allah as He should be feared, and do not die except in the state of Islam. Those whom in Allah's plan willeth to guide, He opened their breasts to Islam. O you believe, fear Allah as He should be feared, and do not die except in the state of Islam. وَاتَّصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. And hold on together, all of you together, to the rope that Allah stretches out for you, and be not divided amongst yourself. Kuntum khayra umatin ukrijat lil-nasi tamaruna bil ma'rufi wa tanhauna 'anil munkar wa tu'minuna billah. You are the best peoples ever raised up for mankind, enjoining what is right, forbidding what is wrong, and believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a few ayats in Quran that are very expressive of the things that are happening to the Muslims today. But the first summons is one that we all are used to by now. وَقَدْ مَكَرُوا مَكْرَهُمْ وَإِنَّ اللَّهِ مَكْرَهُمْ وَإِنْ كَانَ مَكْرَهُمْ لِتَزُولَ مِنْهُ الْجِبَالُ. Mighty indeed were the plots which they made, but their plots were well within the sight of Allah, even though they were such as to shake the hills. So, in the Quran and Arabic, makr is a plan or a scheme or some design that you have for the future, short-range future or long-range future. So it says, mighty indeed were the plots which they made, but their plots were well within the sight of Allah, even though they were such as to shake the hills. Technically, al-jibalu minhu mean that these plots by the enemies of Islam would be so grand and so well structured, and they would have so much power to execute these plans, that if those plans were to be realized, al-jibalu minhu means the mountains or the hills would disappear, or they would shake the hills, you know what I mean? They would cause earthquakes, they would cause all kind of disruption in the land. If these plans that the non-believers have against you and I and against the Muslims of the world, if they were manifested and if they happened to reach their final conclusion, basically what it was saying is it would destroy Islam. But it goes on to say, never think that Allah would fail his messenger in his promise, for Allah is exalted in power, Lord of retribution. So it's telling us that these plans are not going to be manifest. There's another one. Go forth, whether equipped lightly or heavily, and strive and struggle with your goods and your persons in the cause of Allah. That is best for you if you but knew. Anfiru, tanfiru, to go forth. And this is telling us, go forth in the way of Allah, right? Whether equipped lightly or heavily, and strive and struggle in the way of Allah. But it also has the idea of going forth in the cause of Allah, whether you're young and fresh and what have you, or thaqal, whether you're old, right, and stiff. That's what the dictionary says about it. Whether you're old and stiff, you know what I mean? So everybody thinks that go forth, whether equipped lightly or heavily, they think whether you got a little bit of stuff or a lot of stuff or a little bit of people or a lot of people, but it's more, the Quran is more comprehensive than that. So it's telling us, go forth whether you're young and nimble, right, and can stretch and turn flips, right? Or whether you're kind of old and stiff, you know what I mean? Go forth anyway. These are the facts that we understand was the reality during the time of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That when it was time to go forth, everybody went forth, you know, and it's prohibited generally to dye your beard and what have you. But In the case of wartime, to make the enemy feel like this ain't going to be an easy trip here, you can dye your beard and everything. You can dye your hair. So when they look out there, if they look out there and they see a whole troop of gray-headed people, boy, they're going to just say, boy, this is going to be easy today, right? But if they see you looking young and nimble and ready to go, right, and they take that as a given, they have a different period. So this go forth, whether equipped lightly or heavily, includes whether you have light or heavy weapons, whether you got a lot of weapons or you don't have many weapons at all, whether you got a lot of money or don't have a whole lot of money at all, whether you have supplies to carry you on through the whole war, or whether you're going to have to scurry around and gather up the things that you need just not only to fight with, but to stay in the battle. Because there's sometimes when these come up, these periods come up in struggle, and we're in that period right now. Boy, but we're in a blessed period too, which we're going to talk about in a minute. For most people, they would be afraid of this period, but we've been praying for this period. If you know you've been here, you know we've been waiting for this period. We've been talking about ayats out in the expanse, in the universe, and ayats within ourselves, right? The signs, the ayats of Allah. Not only the ayats of Quran, but the ayats in the universe, the ayats that are out there for everybody to see. Some people will see those same things and they're going to get a different idea. Other people are going to see them and they're going to say, that's what we've been waiting for. That's us. Anybody that's been here over 2 weeks have heard what we're going to talk about over and over again. There's only 5 or 6 different versions of what we talk about. It is the same repetitive khutbah almost all the time. It's us and them. In the final conclusion, we're going to win. Allah going to trap them or have them trap themselves in a way that they're going to be worse off than we are. Right? This is all, every week we get up here, it's the same basic tell the truth. Here's a little variation, but it's not far. The same thing about the people that cut our throats and do all of what they do. When you open the newspaper, you'll see there they are. There's care, there's this, right? They're the ones tripping up, not us. And they got everybody there talking about us, and we ain't doing nothing to nobody. Well, we don't think we're doing nothing to nobody. We think we like everybody. That's what we think. If they don't like us, that's their problem. I mean, since we ain't doing nothing to them, there ain't a whole lot we can do. And I'll talk about some of these things later. Oh, you believe when you meet the unbelievers in hostile array, never turn your backs on them. When you meet the enemy, don't turn your back on them. Don't break and run, because it's going to be catchy. You know what I mean? You know they had a battle line in those days. And if the line broke and somebody started running, it would catch the whole line. So people say, I ain't going to be the last one to leave. They're going to get me. So they break it. I mean, it would be quick too. So the line break, and all of a sudden everybody gone. Right? So it's saying, don't turn your back on the enemy. Don't let the line break. Stand your ground. If any do turn his back on them on such a day, unless it be a stratagem of war. unless it's a maneuver, unless it's a trick, right? Unless you're going to fool your enemy, you're going to break and turn and run, and the Arabs was good at this. They'd be fighting, and then they'd break out and running, start running. This was a strategy, one of their best strategies. And they would boogity, they gone. But as they're running up there, they fanning out and coming around. And the enemy is just chasing. Oh boy, we're going to get these boys today. And they fanning around. They can't see way up there. And they fanning around. Pretty soon, they have the enemy surrounded. Unless it's a strategy of war. Lightly, heavily mean whether you got everybody with you or you go by yourself. Sometimes you got to go by yourself. That's the way it goes. The Quran has all these characteristics. Go forth, whether equipped lightly or heavily, it could be dealing with age, whether you're young and stretchy, whether you're stiff and brittle, right? Whether you're well equipped or lightly equipped. Whether everybody ready to go with you or you got to go by yourself. When this stuff hits you, you got to go. Now, in this case, if you do turn your back to them on such a day, unless it be a stratagem of war or to retreat to a troop of your own. You know, there's all types of strategic retreat is one of the main things of battle. Strategic retreat is one of the greatest maneuvers in battle. It's like a double reverse. It's like, and don't get into triple reverses, right? Ball, you go around here. You're going around that way, you give it to the other guy, he come back this way, right? You got to be quick though now. Then triple reverse is when he get over there the second time, he give it to homeboy again. And everybody been going this way and back, if you got the time, back and forth, trying to stay with the ball, right? And pretty soon, you got time to either throw the ball or break out and run. Unless it's a strategy, don't turn your back on the people, right? And so this is guidance. This is hidayah. The Quran says in itself, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This is the book. In it is guidance without doubt. La rayba fihi. There's no doubt in it. Ain't no doubt in the book now. I don't care how much you disagree or agree. That's your problem. This book, it ain't no doubt in it. For those who believe. If you don't believe, you can read the Quran over and over again and you ain't going to get nothing. You may get something out of it. But you're not going to get the essence because you just don't believe. And in the second khutbah, we'll get to this. Victory of Islam over the Shah, victory of Masjid al-Islam over the combined forces of Zionism. Imam Musa will, inshallah, share case study after case study on how to practice psychological guerrilla warfare. Of course, this is 2014, this is 8 years ago, but this is an instruction period. And what we're dealing with, everybody said, boy, that's sad. Even by 2014, we haven't even got busted upside the head at that time. That was later on, you know. But we stuck with what we was doing because we don't let nobody else set our schedule, our time frame. It don't matter what they got. It don't matter. That doesn't make no difference. The College of Strategic and Islamic Studies will give you hands-on experience on how to make U.S. agents and collaborators expose themselves. Just imagine the fun we've been having over the last decades by exposing people and making them expose themselves. You sit back and start laughing almost. Well, not almost, you do. You're just playing with people because remember, we're in a different, not only time zone, but we're in a different setup here in the West. You're dealing, first of all, with the United States of America. And the United States of America and all of its allies, Western allies, right? And you're dealing with a boy that have fought many wars, and he never lost one. Up until last 40, 50 years, he lost everything. He ain't touched nobody and won. In the last 40 or 50 years. Up to World War II, he defeated everybody. But that's because the wind was behind his back. Right? When the wind behind it, hey man, you could tell the guy can't lose. And that's the way Allah have done for different groups and nations of people throughout history. They have their time to express themselves in power over people, to see how they will manage themselves. It's all in the Quran and Hadith. And it seemed like no matter what they do, they're still going up. It happened to the Romans. It happened to the Greeks. It happened to the Persians. It happened to the Muslims, to the Arabs. You know, not only Allah's protection is something else. When Alexander the Great sent his troops into India, well, they was going by Afghanistan. They looked around. They said, keep going. Keep going. For some reason, he ain't stayed. He went and conquered India, big old gigantic India. The only thing that is close to the size of India, was China. And they both they're the oldest and ancient and the most well organized for 200 years before. It was China and India. They was big. Then the troops come back across the top of Arabia. So Alexander the Great, some people think that's who Zul-Qurain is. You're in the Quran, the two-horn guy. So anyway, Allah knows best. He sent spies down there to Arabia, coming across. And the spies come back, they say, man, them guys down there don't do nothing but drink and fight. And they do a lot of both. And it's all desert. You don't get nothing. We don't get nothing. When we went through India, we got all that fancy stuff. When they went through Persia, the Greeks stole everything. The Greeks, when they got to Persia, they emptied out the libraries. When they emptied out the libraries, there was a transition in Greece to a Greco-Asian, because when they emptied the libraries, everything from wedding rings to spring cleaning came from Persia. Right? Remember now, the Persians, the old civilization, they got all these big libraries. Then, a lot of Western culture right now, especially in the old days, was a transfer. Like, They have new rules. That's the New Year's. The new rules is on the first day of spring. You know what they do on the first day of spring? Because the house has been all closed up because it's cold, right? Spring cleaning, they open everything up, they bring out all them rugs, they do it today, and you go and they beating them rugs, right? Spring cleaning. Airing out the house, you can't open up the door a month before. In February, you'll freeze to death. So they have spring cleaning. When you go to Iran and you see the customs, you'll see, man, those customs, the wedding rings, all that stuff, that came from there. But anyway, here they go, right across the top of Arabia. And the spies come back, they said, boss, don't go down there and bother with them people, right? It's just too much trouble. And all they do is fight and drink. They don't do nothing else. They raise 2 or 3 little things, you know what I mean? But they eat mostly dates. They got a simple little diet, and they're going to drink all day and fight all night if they can. And they do both of them very well. Don't know how they do it. Alexander came across, and guess what he established? He came across Egypt, a civilized society, right? And that's where we get Alexandria, Egypt. There's no Alexandria down in Arabia. And Allah left it like it was. Left it just like it was for the coming of Islam. Do you know the sophistication of the Arabic language? Right? Do you know that in that language, in the English language, you can't express things that you can't see you know, physical, chemical stuff. They got a little formula for this formula, right? The English language. But things that are invisible, things that you can't necessarily see or touch, the Arabic language gives you a feeling of those realities, right? Yeah, that's what it does. So the Quran is revealed in Arabic, and Allah left them people so they don't get mixed up with Greek language, and you know how people get integrated. So they don't get no Greek in it, they don't get none of that. In the original Arabic, and you know, even today when you study in school, no matter what place you study, you have to study the Fusha, the original Arabic. Now, everywhere else, they speak at home Amiya. Some places, one place can't hardly understand the other, right? Way over here in Al-Maghrib, Morocco and all of that, they got a little different tinge than they do in Saudi Arabia and what have you. You see what I mean? All right. So they speak in almost a slang, but they're studying. And we had some association with that because when we when we was in exile in Algeria, you know, let's say this is 70, 71, I asked the brothers, hey man, teach me your language. You know what they said? Learn French. They all spoke French perfectly in Algeria. Why? Because in 1845, French became the official language and Arabic the second language. Yeah, in an Arabic-speaking place. So when they, over 100 years later, when they get independence, in Algeria, they're not even speaking, they're speaking a colloquial mixture of gobbledygook. Al-Radouche, one of the big streets, Al-Doudouche Mourad. Doudouche is French, to wash, douche, murad, Arabic. Mixture. A few years later, they imported speakers, Arabic speakers, from Egypt. Not that the best Arabic is in Egypt, but it'll do. But along with those teachers came Ikhwanis, who was getting exiled. Remember during the 50s and the 60s? It ain't looking too good in Egypt for Ikhwan al-Muslimin, right? Most of them are educated, so a lot of them went to Algeria to help teach the Arabic language in Algeria. Yeah. But along with that, come the Egyptians bringing along their Islam. That's why in the 80s and the 90s, you're beginning to have an Islamic revival. Where? In Algeria. So much so that they had to jail tons of Muslims from Algeria. When I was in Algeria, the Masjid were empty. If you went in a shop or a store, probably the guy, he was praying. I've seen it many times. When you went out at night, we didn't like going out at night. Negroes from here, you know why? When you go out here, what you going out for? To catch girls. Tell the truth. When you went there, guess what the places was full of? Men drinking tea and stuff at night. Man, this ain't, for us. We didn't like that. Now we would love it. But then, hey, man, we going out to catch, when you go out at night, especially when you're young, you going out to catch, as we used to call it. You going out to meet somebody, right? Over there, you ain't meeting nobody but another brother. Anyway, learn how Masjid al-Islam has exposed the whole Zionist American network in the public sphere. Never has so few done so much for so many without visible support. This is in 2014. This has already happened. Never has so few done so much for so many. In other words, we're telling you, you've seen it, that we're holding the line for Islam. We're not Isna, Ikna, we're not none of those guys. And we're not selling any fairy tales, Jum'ahs. We never have, and we hope we never will, right? About America, the great wonderland, whatever it is. Anyway. Special session on design fitna. What it is and how it works. Designed fitna. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But we're not going to be that long because we don't want to be here all day. The world is our khutbah today. You just turn on the news, turn on everything, and you can see everything we talked about. When we talked about the Vietnam War ending and people hanging on helicopters to get away, right? They just hanging on airplanes. Hey, can you imagine hanging on? 4 or 5 people dying, hanging on. And they sitting. You see the pictures of the people sitting on them, them big wheels on the airplane. Why are they sitting there? Because they scared of the people. They got to go. We got to go, boss man. Well, you can't go right now. So, boss man, we got to go. Right? And if we're going to die on the plane, we might as well, because the Taliban, whoever they is, they're going to kill everybody anyway, at least the ones that was there before. Okay. The more victories Masjid al-Islam attains against American Zionist institutions, the angrier its former administrators become. And then we ask why. The more victories you have. Now, this is going over the last 10, 12, 15, 20 years. Okay. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله. الحمد لله رب العالمين. والصلاة والسلام على خير المرسلين محمد النبي الأمي وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد، يقول الله تعالى في القرآن الكريم: إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. We're going to deal with a few subjects today, or one or two subjects. Racism, USA, Zionism, occupied Palestine, apartheid, South Africa. The terror triangle, the triangle of terror. That's San Francisco State. I think this is UC Berkeley, 1989. October 28, 1989. Who's the real terror? The devil's triangle. So all of these new things that it seemed like they were new, Islamic Institute for Counter-Zionist American Psychological Warfare, were not new. They have been a part of our mentality from the very beginning. Because after a short period of being a Muslim, we had realized who our main enemy was. And we knew from Jump Street that our main enemy was Zionist. The main enemy of Islam were Zionists. So therefore, we not only had to go up against the Americans who were servants of Zionism. He said, servants of Zionism. Does anybody remember when Netanyahu came here to America and he got 25 standing ovations and Obama was the president? Anybody remember that? Yeah, 25 standing ovations. In the White House, Obama is the president. You know what the Zionists told him? Ask anybody. They say, you could go on about your business. And they met in the White House. They told Obama, you could go on out of the room and come back. We'll let you know. Ask people, they know. Does anybody know that really, yeah, right. That really happened. So what does that mean? The Zionists are running things. Right now, the Zionists have been here since day before yesterday. They were supposed to meet, right? They were supposed to meet yesterday with the president, with old Biden. But they had the explosion of those people over there. And it was so traumatic that they had to put it off until today. So he's supposed to have met the Zionists today. What does that mean? Isn't who we're dealing with America? No, America is working for the Zionists. America has been taken over by the Zionists. And yesterday, when they getting ready to meet, right, with old, whatever his name is, man getting old already. Well, he was already old, 78 years old, good guy. He ain't got too much older to get before he leave. Then they have the bombing. They want to go in and talk to him at that time. What do they want to say to him? Look, we don't want you, we told you, we don't want you doing anything with Iran. Just because you told the world you're going to do this with Iran, do that with Iran, and we don't want you to do it. And to show you how we feel about it, we're going to blow up a whole crew of your soldiers and everybody in front of the public. You can't do nothing about it. Why? They couldn't do nothing about 9/11, right? Don't they have a history of people standing on buildings cheering when 9/11 go off? Who are those people? They're Zionists. We don't want to go through all the details right now because we'd be here for a long time. But here's what we want to say, dear believers. This is years old, 1984. It's called Strategic Thinking. This thing has tapes in it. And I guess I got every book in the library on strategic thinking, strategy, and all of it. Remember, we've talked about everything. Strategic silence, strategic noise, strategic behavior, right? Anything you can imagine, we didn't talked about it. Discombobulation strategy, the strategy to discombobulate and disorganize the United States government. People think you can't do that, but we don't think that way. We think that when Allah get behind you, you can do anything that you need to do in the cause of Allah. We have been doing that. We have already done that. I'm not telling you nothing new. This khutbah has nothing new in it. Everything that we're talking about then, we have already done that. In spades. And Allah was with us all the time. You can remember years ago when the Zionists would have us in the newspaper. This mean old Musa did this, he doing that. And then they had one, they said, well, we'll fix him. We'll fix him, we'll do him like we did Sami al-Arian and them. We'll get him on Fox News, right? And we'll trick him into saying something, and we'll send him off to the penitentiary. So they called, hey, this is Fox News, our representative. Can you come down here and up here to New York? And I said, sure. When you want to do it? Sir, we'll do it such and such a date, and we'll send our representative to pick you up. I said, is your representative a white woman? He said, yes. I said, I ain't gonna have no white woman coming by here picking me up. So they sent a car. When I got to the train station, because the white lady, you know them white girls with them big fat legs that they can't hardly, zip up the boots? Couldn't hardly zip up the boots. This is the healthiest white girl. She was healthy as Hillary Clinton when she was in her 30s. Now, they people laugh, but tell you the truth. You seen a white girl healthy in Hillary Clinton when she was in the white? Tell the truth now, just to be relaxed. I mean, that child was healthy. She's mean now. I mean, I wouldn't want to have her home for dinner or nothing, right? Or make a deal with her. But if you just wanted to look at a healthy white girl, so they said, It's no harm. I said, yeah, it's no harm. I said, and then I got there. They said, yeah, I said, she's about 35. I said, that's what I thought. I don't want no. Imagine, I get in the car, click, click, click. There's the Imam Musa getting in the car with a white girl. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So, you get old, but you don't get stupid. Some people do. But anyway, so we go up to New York, and going up, you could tell the train was full of folks that was on there because I was on the train. And when I got back on the train coming this way, the whole train was people that knew what we just did. And y'all remember the thing? So I come in, I just, well, how you doing? Well, how you doing now? Mr. Musa, I know you're going to say some very controversial things tonight. He used another word, controversial, but I said, this man thinks I'm crazy. And I'm going to say, yeah, you white folks and you Zionists and y'all going to hell and you did this and you did that. I didn't do none of that. I just had a list right there on the table. You couldn't see it, but I had a list. I had 10 things I wanted to talk about. Do you know I got to number 7? He would ask me a question, and you notice I would go to my list. I wouldn't pay no attention to what he asked me. What do you think about martyrdom? I answered that that's the last question I had when I asked about Ahmadiyya and martyrdom. That's the last thing I talked about. I didn't talk about that when he first asked it. I'm saying that we have studied America. And we're not proud and happy and thankful to be on their television. Most Negroes are. They're just happy. Most Arabs, whatever you want to call them, they're happy too, to be accepted. Well, we're not like that. We're not like that. Why? Because we know our environment. And we have very few things. We have to use the things in the environment for the betterment of Islam. Okay, now I'm going to just mention a few things and head on in. The first thing is, I'm clean. Oh, good for you. You take a bath, something. No. I'm clean comes from the days of being involved in crime. I'm clean mean I'm clean. You can search me, you can't find nothing because I'm clean. My car's clean, I'm clean, ain't nothing on me. Right? That comes from, but also as a known personality, I'm clean in our time has to do with your environment and your behavior. Unclean mean they can't go scratch. How many Negroes that you know got 14 to 15 years of celibacy with everybody watching? I don't believe that. This 5 years, I don't believe no nigga gonna go that long without. What if you got 15 years and it ain't bothering you? You just doing it because you had plenty of partying before, so it's normal. So unclean mean they can search, and they got cameras and they got sniffing dogs. They can go through the whole historical life, and you never seen them come up, think about it, with nothing. Nothing. Can you imagine a Negro that you can go, can you do it to a congressman, a senator, a president? That's why they're vulnerable to everything. That's why they can't talk, can't do nothing to me, nothing. They can take you out, but that's all right. You go out clean. It don't make no difference. I'm telling you, you have to be, if you're going to deal with them at this time, you're going to have to be clean. And the Muslims generally are not that clean. they doing something. And also, they might like a little fame. And then the ones that we see, all the big crews, they're a little scared. Looks like they are. I'm just saying we went over to them after 9/11. We went over to Adams and everywhere, and we told them we'll come and help be around for y'all for a little security. They said, all right, over Dart here. They said, no, thank you. They said, we're going to have some women, Christian women and everything, they're going to come and put on hijab, Dal Hijra. Anybody remember that? And they're going to stand outside and they're going to, be our protection. And they thought it was new revelation. I thought it said, men are the protectors and maintainers of women. That's what I thought it was saying. Qawam is the word. Qawam, manager, protector, safeguarder. That's what it says. Men are the. It don't say when trouble come. In fact, it say about the boys is kind of funny acting. They sitting behind, or they in the back, or they staying behind with the sisters, right? The sisters is not bad. They got the children. They got to do all that stuff. They pregnant. They don't need to be out running around, jumping up and down. But the brothers that's acting funny, the Quran says they stand behind with them. Isn't that right? Y'all read that? Okay. So that's how, if you didn't really believe in Allah, you would be very sad about the state of Islam in America. We've always been juiced up and fired up, always. Because we've been expecting this stuff that's happening now. We've been expecting it. We've been waiting on it. In fact, we've been waiting by the door, by the window for a sign. And they've been coming fast here recently. Waiting for a sign, an ayat. What is going to happen to us to make us move into another stage? And that's the stage we're in right now. Okay. So we done slipped up on the Zionists. Because the Zionists didn't have nothing to use against us. So when we charged against them and everybody was laughing at them, they stopped mentioning it. You can't find Imam Musa nowhere. Not in the Washington Post, nowhere. Tell the truth. Go look. For over 10 years, you don't find nothing, right? You can't find it. I don't care whether it was this stuff or whatever it is. Their policy was to cut you off, which they did. We didn't go against them. No, we said fine. Because we got a plan. We've always had a plan. That's all we listen to. Strategic thinking, all the lessons. Strategic management under conditions of repression, right? Strategic difficulties, strategic everything. And the strategy is different than the plan. It's bigger than the plan. Okay. So Netanyahu was over here with Obama, and they met in the White House, and they told him he could go about his business. And in the Congress, what did they had 25 standing ovations for Netanyahu, more than Obama would get. Now, the Zionists are over here again. But they coming in power. You got to remember, everything is happening at this time. It didn't just start, but it's all coming together. The difficulties, the ease, and the movement is all at a point right now. The great United States government, right, has a problem. The problems didn't just start. Does anybody remember, what did they call that? October surprise? October surprise, October surprise? October surprise. October surprise is they're going to have the elections in November, right? The Iranians is getting ready to let the hostages go, right? And the Republicans tell them to hold them. What day did they let the so-called spies go? The same day Reagan was being inaugurated, right? Yeah, that's when they let the spies go. All right. Other people would think, some of the Iranians think they made a big mistake. They didn't make a big mistake. When you are under the guidance and the management of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no matter what you think, you're not going to make no mistake. Everything that you do is going to feed into what you got at that time. But the duty for you is to do for what it says, go forth in the cause of Allah, whether equipped lightly or heavily, struggle in the way of Allah, right? Now, that's where we are right now. That's why Netanyahu, not Netanyahu, or whatever the guy's name is, the Zionists in the White House right now, right? They put off the meeting, they're meeting today, or they met this morning, whatever. But the old bald-headed man have a chance to do something for his country. He's on the line today. His whole self and his country is on the line. If you think 9/11 was something, if you think all the other bombings and everything was something and the Zionists did it, then who do you think blew up all of that stuff yesterday or the day before, whatever it was? Huh? It was the Zionists. Yes, it was. Let me tell you how. In order to continue to manipulate America, it ain't the tail wagging the dog, or the way. It's the tail. The Zionist tail is wagging the American dog. That's exactly what's going on. They're telling, and you could see it in everything. The Zionists have control over America. And they've had control a long, long time. Right? And you could see it. They want to keep the wars going on amongst the Muslims. And they want to keep America fighting Muslims so that America, although it gets weaker, and they want to keep America weak in the sight of everybody, but strong militarily, right? I want you to ask you a question. If America is so strong militarily, how the heck they couldn't whoop the Koreans, and there was 3 or 4 Koreans running around? North Koreans, right? Do you know that the Korean War is still on the paperwork? It ain't. The war has never ended. It was just a ceasefire, Panmunjom, 1953. The Koreans, with Red China's help, of course, whooped the Americans and made them sue for peace. That's after World War II, whooping the Germans and the Japanese. Boy, they thought they was bad. So Korea just went by. It was just a blip. Nobody paid much attention. It's just a blip. That ain't no big deal, right? Then comes Vietnam, right? Today, and this period reminds me of the Tet Offensive, 1968. Here's what it said. Things fall apart. This is Tet Offensive, 68. The center cannot hold. Boy, I got that. That's it. I'm going, boy, when that time comes again, that's when it is now. Things fall apart. In America, tell the truth, it's all falling apart. It's been falling apart for a long time. Forget about old Don and his falling apart and this guy here falling apart. They have been falling apart for a long time, but it comes a time when it's all clear to everybody. And this reminds me of 68. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. This boy, it's too late, right? You can see it now. You can hear it on TV. Everything. The center cannot hold. That's the way it is. This is our time. This is our time right now. I'm just going to mention a few things that the Muslims have to do. We're going to do our part. But the Muslims have to now, everything they told them not to do, they're murdering people in Syria still, right? They're killing people. Yemen is unbelievable. The richest Arab country in the world, slaughtering and got blockades on the poorest Arabs, right? And Lebanon and Iraq. Do you know America, when it destroyed Iraq, do you know they used to have a saying in the Arab world? They print books in Egypt and they read them in Iraq. Iraq, 15 years ago or more, was the most advanced Arab country. That big was Iraq. Of course, they had a dictator and stuff like that. But I'm telling you, it was more sophisticated than everybody else. It was better arranged, better organized than Egypt and all of those places. So they wrote books in Lebanon, they printed them in Egypt, and they read them in Iraq. That was a cycle, right? That was a cycle. And the U.S. came and destroyed all of that. 2 or 3 times it came back. It came back and it did its job. Iran has been at war with it for I don't know how long. Afghanistan, they said, well, you blew up our buildings 9/11, which, can you imagine how many? 15 of those guys came from Saudi Arabia, right? Y'all, right? Am I lying? 15 of the people they got, I don't know where they got them from, but they say that they came, you know, there's 15 of them from Saudi Arabia. Well, why did they invade Afghanistan? Why did they kill and murder all of those people in Afghanistan? Why did they kill farmers and all of that stuff and plant weapons on them? Why? Throughout history, where's the graveyard of empires? Who broke the Soviet Union down? The big bad, in the 80s, they had programs on TV. America, think back now, about America being taken over by Russia. And people were saying, America. I guess y'all don't remember. Maybe I'm a little older than I let on. So anyway, that didn't happen. They always knew that their supposed big enemy was supposed to be Russia. After the Russians used all their high-tech stuff and they killed 1.6 million people. You know, Afghanistan in those days it had 16 million people. I don't know how many it has now. 16 million. So if you kill 1.6 million people with them helicopters and everything, you've killed 10% of the population. Right? That's what the Russians did. And the Russians went running home. They went running home. They ain't looked back. And then the World Trade Center go up in smoke. And they blame it on people there. They wish they hadn't have done that. They wish they hadn't have done that. Because they've been stuck over there for 20 years. The longest war. Can you imagine that you have children, they get old, and they have children, and America's still over there. But how they left Vietnam, hanging off helicopters, was honorable compared to, think about it, what happened to them this time. Right? Look at it. Go pull up the Vietnam stuff. Hanging on helicopters. They got to go because the Reds is coming. But now the Taliban is coming. Who's the Taliban? They homeboys. I don't want to. All of them are in it together, or the government buy them all off. I'm going to try to just say a few things and close up and go, because I'm going to do this over and over again. You're going to hear this same talk over and over again, because I have to put all the details together for you. But we're not resting. We got work to do now. So, they're meeting down there today. And the Zionists are telling Biden, whatever his name is, what to do. And he's trying to say, well, by this evening or tomorrow, you will know whether he stood his ground. Whether he stood his ground. He has the opportunity to rescue America from Zionists. And do you know, the whole apparatus understands what's going on. When the FBI come by here and they make a couple of hints at certain things and then they go on about their business, they said clearly right by the door, you don't have to worry about us anymore. It's something else. And they hinting at it. I say, you don't have to worry about y'all no more. Every time I come from overseas, I sit over there 4 or 5 hours, right? And before getting on the plane, I stand there for 2, 3 hours. I got to get there real early because I got to stand there, just wait and go through the shoot. When I got there coming from Oakland another time, I went to the airport, showed them my ID. They said, okay, you can go. I was looking all around, and I went through the place, and they just said, stand there, go ahead. I started to go back. Wait just a minute now. What's going on here? I could just walk right on through. That's what the FBI did. The FBI here was here to tell me, but I'm not letting them get away with it. We're under a new dispensation right now. The Zionists are telling us what to do. The Zionists put the big old tall guy on trial. You know, what's his name? The head of the FBI. They do with them what they want. Donald Trump's best friend is the Zionist. Well, they friend. They're not his friend. Right? Don't they manipulate and they control him 100%? What was Trump's job? We said it here years before it happened. First, we said his job is to destroy the Republican Party. Remember that? Then we said Don's job is to destroy America. to make it super weak. If America is super weak ideologically and the Zionists are strong, that little old group of people can control them. Why? You see it every day. Why? What is it, Pegasus, this and that? They got something on the whole Congress. It ain't no white man that lived a moral life in the United States. I mean, there's probably one or so. But them, right? Tell the truth. So the Zionists got them all by their body parts. They got them all. They have to cooperate. Let me try to explain that again. The Zionists control Congress. The Zionists control Senate. The Zionists control economy. The Zionist runs America. Not the Yahud, the Zionist. Because the Yahud are our friend. The rabbis, what did the rabbis say? This is our friend. He was talking about me. And them guys are serious. Anytime they can stand outside in the hot sun, it's 92 degrees, and they got all them fur hats on and them black clothes. So them boys is bad. I don't care what you say. Them is some tough customers, right? Because sisters that be wearing black and they wearing all that stuff, they be burning up. But they don't be hot. They wearing mink hats. Not mink hats. Fur hats. And triple clothes. I be standing in the room with them sometime when we have a program, and they be dressed up. You know what I mean? They got a coat on, an overcoat, an undercoat, an incoat, an outcoat. They be hooked up, and all that fur. I said, boy, look at here. I don't tell them. I said, you some bad jokers. If you just, the way you dress make you tough. You just can stand the heat. They talking about Negroes can stand the heat. Good God Almighty. Let me get on a little bit. Because I can't say it all. That was the problem I was having before, trying to say everything in a khutbah, and it takes 3 or 4 hours and still don't get it done. So we're going to just say a few more things and call it a day. Okay. So we done slipped up on the Zionists. We whooping the Zionists. Now you'd saying, is a Negro, this boy here been drinking that. He used to call it clear light, orange sunshine. You remember that acid stuff? They said that the brother, good Imam, but he been taking that clear light or orange sunshine. Those was the best. And anyway, you know, acid, LSD. Yeah, anyway. I ain't take no acid. And I don't take none of that funny stuff. Only one time, down in South America, you know them mushrooms that had little spots on it? The white boys, they blame it on them. Oh, come on, this is 50 years ago. So we went out in the woods. I go in the woods all the time, running around. I get back on the subject. So there's mushrooms have psilocybin in it. And that make you high and all kind of stuff. So they was boiling all the mushrooms, and then you drink the water. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting there, and I'm up ready to go. So I never did that again. But I knew never take no clear light or orange sunshine or nothing. Because I knew about the tests. You know the tests they did in the early 60s, 61, with the U.S. Army. And people jumping out. See, a lot of people, we know stuff y'all ain't paying attention to. They tested that acid. They killed Negroes with heroin and stuff. They killed white boys with crank, methadone crystals. What they call it, the crystal meth. And acid. And all that other funny stuff. See, the Negro was lucky. He'd just be nodding off heroin. But the white boys, see, when you want to fix America or change it, the government don't want you to change it. And they ran their own children crazy to make sure that they don't get none of that done. And it worked. Okay, I'm going to still speed up. the thing that got all of this period started was Iran, when they had the revolution in Iran. And everything that's going on right now is revolving around that. Before Iran, the communist was getting big in Afghanistan. So they started messing up, so the Russians invaded Afghanistan in '79. And then along with that came the U.S. hatred for Islam. But they hated the Shias in Iran, but they loved the Mujahideen that they was fighting the Russians in Afghanistan, right? So just remember this. Divide, conquer, and rule. Boss man will use anybody to get whatever he wants done. And the Zionist is worse than boss man. So if you've been working for boss man, and I say this all the time, but I want to say it so you get the idea. If you're working for boss man, quit now. We said this 15 years ago, we said it 20 years ago. Look at boss man's record. What did he do with the Vietnamese? Pushed them off the helicopters, right? What do you think? What does he do with the Negroes that tell on everybody? He pays up. He want to fix them a long time? No. He sent them to the penitentiary. When they can't tell on nobody else, he sent them to the penitentiary and put them right in the cell where they're going to get killed. Niggas in there. Everybody in the cell, they put them in there. One of the tattletales is out of cell block in Lewisburg, named after one of the snitches. He said he filled that cell block up. When it was all over, that's where they put him. Okay. Look at now. The Iranians, that was part of SAVAK when the revolution happened in '79, right? The SAVAK that was here, most of them stayed here and was already a part of MSA PSG, Muslim Student Association, Persian-speaking group. We was number one on that list, if y'all could remember, some of the older timers. After they all gone back home, the ones that are left here now, today, are SAVAK agents from way back during the Shah's time. This is just my opinion. So maybe I'm 80% right. That's good enough. Tell the truth. If you got a joint that's 80% tattletales, boy, that's a lot of snitches. Tell the truth. But the government don't like no 80%. It like 99%, almost 100, you know. That's why we are not around Iranians anymore. Because the government knows and feels like, for instance, everything we talk about has happened right in front of your face. If you've been coming here anytime, anything we said before, you can see it. It happens. 1, 2, 3. Am I lying? If I'm lying, say, raise your hand and say, Imam Musa, I think, oh no, this is right now. Okay, so that's straight. The price you pay is not a price, it's a blessing. Because you learn how to manipulate them. If you have courage, you learn how to manipulate them. Like some people go in the room with boss man say, if you don't cooperate, I'll do this. They don't do that to me. So y'all must be stupid or something. What's wrong with you? You're a fool. Why? Because I'm clean. Now, I know they can make up something, but they have to openly make up something and everybody would see it's made up. Right? That's where we got the Zionists. That's why the Zionists took all this stuff off of us years ago. And they figured if we don't mention it, we don't mention that nigga, then they won't nobody pay no attention. That has not worked because we've been ready all along, right? Okay, y'all don't have to worry. I'm going to close in a few more minutes because all these pages I haven't even touched yet. But here's what we're getting ready to do. All the problems that the Muslims have, it's time to solve them. We have been waiting in the background and waiting. So if Yemenis are starving to death, right now, they're on the Persian Gulf. The Saudis only got so many boats, right? Iranians got thousands of speedboats. Remember, they call it swarming. They swarm things. Now, we're going to have to park big ships in the Persian Gulf loaded with food. And those boats go up back and forth, fill up with what they need in Yemen, and they go with blockade running. Blockade running, just running the blockades. Ain't nothing they can do. What they going to do, get mad? They can't do nothing. Blockade running, that's what we're suggesting right now. And as far as just suggestion, do not think that ain't nobody paying attention to what we're talking about here. I'm sorry. If you think that, then you're crazy. If you think that ain't nobody paying attention to what we say here, you haven't been keeping score. You've got to keep score. It'll even get back to who's paying attention. And then with Lebanon, we got to load them up, hit them all kind of ways. Send stuff to Syria and send it on down. Send stuff through Iraq. If Jordan opens up, go through there and then, right? So it's land, sea, and air. With Yemen, it's just the sea. With Lebanon, it's land, sea, and air. Who's going to take care of all of this? Islamic Republic going to take care of it. They start off with it, but then all the rest of us. Why don't Indonesia and Malaysia send one boat per month to that region? And if somebody happens to come up and unload it, oh, what are you guys doing here? Well, so you're unloading the boat. And after it's all unloaded, you'll say, ask them, did you have a slip for that stuff y'all just took and unloaded? And then they'll write fi sabilillah on there and go on about their business. I'm telling you now, all this is unconventional or conventional or semi-conventional warfare. That means that we're not going to put up with it. We're not going to put up with what we've been putting up here. We're going into a new mode. The first was the first part of the war. Now we're in the second stage of it. That's what we're calling it. Yeah. And so we're not in the stage that we was in last week or last month. That's like the Stone Age. Last month was the Stone Age, way back. Because bam, we're in a new stage right now. And everything is right there in front of you. And I move toward a close with this, just so I can say part of it. All the groups over there are tied mostly to Zionists and others, like in Saudi Arabia. Boko Haram, what does Boko Haram do? Kill all Africans, right? Right? Saudi sponsored, clean as that. Remember the Triangle of Terror, Saudi Arabia, the Zionist entity, and the United States of America. All right. So what do we have to do as an organization, as a people? We have to say, we've had enough. That's what this time is. And this is a historical period. Your big monster, the United States of America, is not wearing the same suit he did before. The Zionists that had the power to make America do things have just been defeated in Palestine month before last. Isn't that right? You got to think about it. If you're not thinking strategic, you shouldn't be around. Strategic, not white folks strategic. They can't even think strategic or they didn't know what to do. This is 1984. If they was thinking strategic, they didn't know what to do then, right? But they can talk about it good, and we're listening. Strategic discipline, strategic self-control, strategic attitude, strategic harmony, strategic disharmony, all of that. Strategic, that means you got a long-range plan for everything. And you don't move when people tell you to move. If those Negroes in California do something to us, do you think we're going to let them set our schedule? Absolutely not. No matter what they do. It doesn't make a difference. Like now, they don't make a difference. That don't make a difference. What make a difference is what we're doing right now. And I'm going to move to a close. Just one more second. So, just like Iran has a duty as an independent state, it's got the whole world against it, right? Or they world against it. But you know, the rest of the world of color, the world, you know what they tell the Iranians? They say, man, out of the 10 things they do to you guys, if they did one of those to us, we would quit. That means they 10 times, right? Don't forget Cuba and Venezuela. You say they're non-believers and they're commies and reds. Don't worry about it. Your allies are no more than Allah, right? And the people of peace and harmony. And if they got 2 pieces of peace, right, and ain't nobody else got none, they're the people of peace and harmony, right? That's the crew. So we close with this, dear believers. This is a different time. I'll explain Sunday what the whole thing about the bombings and all of that was. But remember, who did this bombing? What they say? Somebody you ain't even never heard of, right? It's ridiculous. Right? I mean, the Zionists did it. The Zionists influence all of our groups. The Zionists influence the Saudis. The Zionists influence many of the Arab groups. The Zionists are holding hands with them openly, right? They've been like that because they would rather keep power. And I'm not from there. Do you know some of the Arabs? It's just a rumor. What do they say about Saudi Arabia? Anybody know? They're Yahudi tribe. That's what they say now. He said it, I didn't say it. But everybody knows it. Ask any Arab. Yeah. Ali Saud. Yahud. That's what they say. Well, one thing about it, that's how they act, right? Suppose they're not. Dear believers, we thank you for being patient with us. Sunday and all the other days, we're going to try to give you a detailed rendition of who these people are and what they're about. But we close with this. All you have to do, if you look at what's happening in the news today, you're looking at a world in transition, and it's going like zoop. In the Bible, when it says things like Babylon the Great has fallen, which we used to call America Babylon, it says in one day it fell, but it didn't mean one day, like one 24-hour day. It means there was a whole series of historical events that led up to the collapse of Babylon. There was a whole series of events that led up to the collapse of Rome, right? There was a whole series of events that led up to, right, the collapse of Great Britain, the collapse of Europe. The sun never set on the British Empire, isn't that right? And it came a time when the sun never rose on the British Empire, because even at the home base, Britain is always cloudy, isn't that right? Tell the truth. So it went from the sun never setting on the British Empire to the sun never even rising on it. Every Tuesday or Thursday, the sunrise there in Britain. That's what they say. I don't know. Right? That happens. What has happened in front of your eyes right now is what just is going on now. Whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, whether you got on a boat, whether you flew over here, whether you're happy to be here, it don't make no difference. What just happened is happening. And hold on. The worst is yet to come. This is just the beginning. Things fall apart. The sinner cannot hold. O Allah, we seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief. We seek thy refuge from lack of strength and laziness. We seek thy refuge from cowardice and niggardliness. And we seek thy refuge from being overpowered by debt and the oppression of men. O Allah, suffice us with what is lawful, keep from us what is prohibited. With thy grace make us free from want of what is besides thee. Ameen. You come into